Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make a simple umbrella dress or a half circle dress with bishop collar. If this sounds like something you're interested in learning, please watch to the end of this tutorial. For this project, I used 3 yards of African print fabric, and the amount of fabric you need depends on the length of your dress. So here I folded my 3 yards into 2 equal parts. So I'll demonstrate with a paper so you understand. So assuming this is my 3 yards, I folded it into 2 equal parts. That is what I've done here. Then I further folded into a triangle like this. You see how I folded into a triangle on my paper. So that is what I have done on the fabric as well. I folded into a triangle. It means I've folded into 4. First into 2 equal parts with my 3 yards, and then into a triangle like this. So at the tip, this side, you see this side is open, okay? So the other side is folded. That will be the center part, the center front, the part that has all the parts folded. So at the top here, I would look for where I would get half of the shoulder measurements I'm working with. The half of the shoulder measurements I'm working with is 8 inches. So I'm just measuring from this side of this triangle till I get 8 inches, and I've gotten it at this point. So I just ruled a line, and this will act as my shoulder line. At this side that the fabric is open, has an open side, I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and from the center point I measured 3 inches and connected the 1 inch I came down by to the 3 inches for the shoulder slope. Then you can see how I positioned my tape. From the shoulder line I measured 9 inches, which is the chest line. Then from the center, the folded part, I measured the same 8 inches I have on the shoulder line, and then connected the 2 points. You can see how I measured. Please, you just take note. From the center, when you measure 8 inches, at that 8 inches is where you come down for the 9 inches or whatever the chest line is, and this is where I'm going to take my bust circumference. For the neckline, I'm using a neck depth of 1 inch and a neck width of 3 inches for the back neckline, and a neck depth of 3 inches and a neck width of 3 inches for the front neckline, and that is what I'm taking here. Then on the chest line, I'm going to impute 9.5 inches, which is quarter of the bust circumference I'm working with, and I added extra 1 inch sewing allowance to that. I would find the midpoint of this line, and from there I would make a curve for the armhole. The next thing will be to take the length of my dress. So I'm working with a length of 37 inches plus 1 inch, making it 38 inches. So what I'm going to do is to measure what I have from the tip of the triangle to where my shoulder line is, and I have about 9 inches. So 9 inches plus 38 inches is about 47 inches. So from the tip of this fabric, I'll measure 47 inches all round. So I got that measurement, the 9 inches, so that it will be easy for me to measure, take my measurements, because this is in form of a triangle, so it is not a straight line. So from that tip I keep measuring 47 inches all round, so that when I cut off from the shoulder I will now have my 38 inches, which is what I need. After measuring, I'm going to connect this measurement on the chest line down this way. You can see how I connected it towards the end this way. So I'm going to add shoulder joining allowance of 1/2 inch on my shoulder for joining the front and the back together. Then I'll go ahead and cut out. So when cutting, I'm going to cut the back neckline first before I can now remove the back and cut the front neckline. So there's something I want to show us. So when I cut, because of the length I need, some parts is short of the 38 inches I need. So you can see this part is not up to the other part under. So I would measure what I have. The biggest measurement there is about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to use this fabric to complete the part that is missing. So I'll measure the length. All this part is missing, is not complete. So I'll measure about 14 inches by 2.5 inches because I will need to join. Okay, so when you cut and your fabric is not complete, you don't have to worry. What you have to do is cut another fabric and complete it, the length and the breadth. You measure it and cut a fabric of such measurements and add extra 1 inch because you'll be joining with half inch, making it 1 inch. So that's why I cut this piece. I'm going to place them right sides facing each other and join to complete the part that is missing. So here I'm going to trim out the front neckline. I've removed the back piece. I'm going to go on and cut out the front neckline. So note that this dress is not going to have a zipper. So I'll make a slit in front, about 4 to 4.5 inches of slit in front, or you can even make it up to 5 inches slits. So I'll make a slit in front so that it will be easy to wear this dress. So I have this piece of fabric on fold and I'm just going to use it as a facing for the slit I'll make in front. So when you're taking your facing, you make sure that where your slit will stop, you have at least 2 more inches after your slit. So I'm just cutting this to take the form of the neckline, and then I'll use it to turn out the slit when I cut open the slit in front. That's what this piece of fabric is for. So I'll just iron, gum stay to it, and then use it to cut. When I cut the slit in front, I'll use it to tidy up the slits. So like I said, I will make a slit in front. I made my slit, I think I used 4.5 inches. So I initially cut 3.5 inches, but I later made it 4.5 inches so that the head can easily pass through when you're putting on the dress, because it's not going to have a zipper. So I'm going to use this, I'm going to place right side to right side, pin together. I'm going to pin the facing and the dress in front like this together, and then I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch. You see how I've aligned it? I'm going to sew on the slits. I've not slitted the facing, so I only slitted the dress in front. I'll sew 1/2 inch all around, then I would notch and top stitch towards the facing side. So after that, I'm going to join them by the shoulder by 1/2 inch. Then I'll use a bias to turn the armhole area. So as you can see, I've already turned the slits. So I'll go ahead and slit. Like I said, I didn't slit the facing before, so I'm just slitting it, and then I'm going to notch all around the stitch I've made. I would notch so that it will relax properly when I turn the facing to the wrong side, and then I'll further top stitch towards the facing side so that it will relax very well. So that's what I'm going to do. Then I'll iron them down. So you see this part that I've joined to complete the part that was short. So after attaching it, I'll fold back each piece. Like the front piece, I'll fold it into 2 again, and the back into 2. Then you can see that I have excess after joining, so I'll go ahead and trim off the excess using the side that is complete as a reference to trim, so that I'll have equal measurement. When I turn it, you can see now that I have a complete flay down. So after that, I'm just going to join the shoulders like I said before. Use a bias to turn the armhole area and join the sides. So I've done all that. You can see that I've used bias to turn the armhole area, and I've sewn the side with 1 inch sewing allowance. The next thing will be to attach a collar. I'm going to attach a bishop collar to the neck of this dress to tidy it up. So that's the next thing I'm going to do now. So to cut the collar, I'm going to measure what I have on my neck region from one part of the front to the other end. So when I measured, I had 16 inches. 16 inches. So I've put my gum stay on fold. I'm going to cut directly on my gum stay. So 16 inches divided by 2 is 8 inches. This is on fold. I'm going to measure 8 inches, and I've ruled out a base for my collar, and on that base I measured 8 inches since my gum stay is on fold. The height of the collar I want is 1.25 inches, but I'll add sewing allowance of 1 inch, making it 2.25 inches. Then I'll divide this 8 inches into 2, and at that midpoint, which is 4 inches, I also measure the 2.25 inches, and I'll connect it to the folded part of my gum stay. From this open part, I'll come up by ½ inch and then connect it to the midpoint, which is the 4 inches point I noted. Then from that point I went up, I'm going to now take the measurement of 2.25 inches and connect to the midpoint like this. I'll also take the length of 8 inches on this top part and then connect to the measurements on the base like this. Then to avoid gaping of the collar at the top, this open edge, I'm going to come inward by ½ inch and connect it to the base like this. So this is for the collar. Note that the I measured 2.25 inches because I'll use ½ inch to turn the top part of the collar and use ½ inch to join the collar to the dress. So I'll be left with 1.25 inches as the height of my collar. I'll go ahead and cut this out. So in case you feel like you don't understand what I'm talking about when it comes to this collar, I have videos where I've explained in details how to make bishop collar, and I'll drop some links to those videos in the description box so that you can watch them and understand exactly how to go about this. So I'm going to use my gum stay to cut my fabric. So when you're cutting your collar, you fold on bias. I'm going to fold my fabric in a form of triangle. So this is cutting on bias form. So when I cut, I'm going to add a turning allowance of ½ inch at this open end of the fabric for turning the collar. So after cutting this, I'll cut a second one because I'll be using the fabric to line as well. So I've ironed my gum stay on one of the fabric, and you can see the other one. So I'm going to place them right sides facing each other, and I'm going to sew from this end this way, ½ inch to the other end. So this is how I'm going to go to the machine and sew. So after sewing, I'm just going to trim out the excesses I have. When I trim it out, I'm going to also notch my sewing and then turn to the right side and then iron very well. I'll iron properly. So I've ironed my collar down, and the side with the gum stay, I ironed in the allowance, the ½ inch allowance inward, and just left the allowance on the other side. So I'm going to get the dress and fold the neckline into 2 equal parts and notch the midpoint at the back, the center back. I'll notch it after folding into 2 equal parts. Then I'll fold my collar as well and notch the midpoint as well. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my collar, the side without the gum stay is going to be touching the good side of our dress. I'm joining from the right side of the dress, so the notch part of the collar and the notch part of the neckline would be pinned together. Then I'll pin all round and sew with ½ inch sewing allowance. After sewing all round, I'm going to then fold in, turn out the other side of the collar and top stitch to cover the first stitch I have made. I'll also hem the lower part of the dress. I'll fold 1/2 inch 2 times and hem it. And that's all on how to make this umbrella dress with bishop collar. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.